folks, another edition here on Zero Block 30, and today we have 3 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, the Afghanistan War appears to be officially over. We've all aged a ton while it's gone on. 20 years, right? It's been 20 years just about, almost to the day that we've been in Afghanistan. We've all aged, and if you want to stop, science has suggested a few things for our guy Connor, like getting castrated. Round number 2, what's that? You, me, and Dupree. Like whenever Owen Wilson is like, "Why does he want me to get a vasectomy?"
Yeah. He's like, I don't understand.
What do you still want me to get the vasectomy or not?
I'm throwing 7 different kinds of smoke.
All right, round number 2. This round is easily one of the most insane stories we've ever shared on the podcast. It involves a lieutenant colonel and several wives, lies about deployment and a cheating scandal. It's juicy. This dude lied about a silver star, deployments, all kinds of shit.
A dead child he lied about.
When I read this,
yeah.
When I went through the, I think it was the Daily Mail or the Daily Beast that first put it out. I read it and I was like, this reads like somebody who wants to be a writer that is a young enlisted troop and is just trying their hand at a little bit of a novel, because it's so far-fetched. You wouldn't think that anybody would do this, especially not somebody that's the lieutenant colonel and entrusted with a shit ton of stuff. It's
like a Lifetime. It read like a Lifetime movie is what it read like a shitty Lifetime movie.
Like, and they cast Rob Lowe as the guy that did it.
Don't
that would be
sully
such an
Rob.
upgrade. That would be such an upgrade.
Don't you dare
for this guy.
sully Rob Lowe's name this
way.
way.
Well, Rob Lowe will take money from anybody at this point. Like, he's been on several Lifetime movies.
You gotta read his biography, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Has he? No, he hasn't. He hasn't been on Lifetime. I'm pulling up his IMDb right now.
They made fun of him on his roast that he did on Comedy Central because he had been in so many shitty things, like his younger career. But now, I mean, besides Parks and Rec, when's the last time he's had a big role in anything?
He's on Texas 911 or Rescue 911 right now. 911 Lone Star.
Oh, huge.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Big time hit on CBS right after 60 Minutes with the olds. So fucking Nana can string her bean to it. And finally, round number 3, the U.S. left Afghanistan in the middle of the night. Pull a little Irish goodbye and a shout out to me, basically. Anytime I go anywhere out to a bar or something like that, I love a little Irish goodbye. That's what we did in Afghanistan. And the things that we left behind, including our dignity, is pretty incredible. There's all these shops popping up with different bazaars of selling different types of vehicles. I saw one picture. It had like F-250s. It had MRAPs. I would love to go through that. And
I would love for them to just send us over and see what we can find and if we get to keep it.
I have a little I Spy game for you guys later in the show, which is great for podcasts that you listen to. So stay tuned.
Perfect. By the way, I sit corrected. Rob Lowe, the amount of TV movies I'm seeing here is preposterous.
It is. I'm telling you, like he might be the biggest name actor that takes like C-list celebrity movies all the time.
Yeah, I did read his book. What was it called? Whatever it was. It was interesting, but he didn't really mention all these TV movies in the book.
Why would he? I mean, you just take a check and hope nobody pays attention.
That's true.
Unlike the U.S. government in Afghanistan, Rob Lowe never leaves a dollar behind. He will get it anywhere he can. He never leaves a role. He's on it.
And he probably is a homeowner too, just like you can be with our friends at Cross Country Mortgage. Cross Country Mortgage is much like us at Barstool. We are a people first group, and they are dedicated to the fundamentals of mortgage lending, which is a result of fast, convenient, and less stressful home financing or refinancing experience. Rates are unbelievably low right now, and they're supposed to go up in like a year and a half. They're supposed to go up. So if you're looking for a house, it's a tough time to buy, but Cross Country Mortgage will make it super simple to figure out, because then you just have to worry about getting all your stuff accepted. If you get through that phase with your realtor and get your offer accepted, you're going to be doing a lot better with our friends at Cross Country Mortgage. If you're a homeowner and haven't recently financed, you may be leaving thousands, if not tens of thousands, heck, who even knows, $100,000 on the table for a lifetime of a loan that will really fuck you. I mean, I did this whenever, because, you know, being a veteran and having any type of veteran stuff on your loan, Cons, I'm sure you had this when you were a homeowner in Texas. You get 1 million of these letters every single day. Refinance. And they act like they're going to be saving you something. And it comes on like an official looking letterhead. It's so predatory that staying away from that and like Google searching how does a veteran refinance? How do we do this? How do we do that? It's
compliment of the season, veteran. How can I help you?
It's a nightmare, like trying to get through that. And you're like, is this really a good deal? Or are they trying to bend me over shotgun style and give me a bulk board check with their new loan? Cross Country Mortgage is not going to do that. Make sure you go check out what they have to offer you at crosscountrymortgage.com/barstool. It's a Cross Country Mortgage LLC MLS 3029. All loans are subject to underwriting approval. www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Legal stuff involved with that ad read.
And Kate, phonetically, NMLS is
Night Mover Elton John. Super Times.
Elton John Super Times. That's a new one here.
Elton John with an L. Starts with an L.
Yeah. That's what Elton, that's how you know it's like friends. Like if he sees, oh, Elton, how are you doing? It come in a text message. He's like, that's not legit me at all.
It's Elton.
Yeah, it's got to be the Elton, the big ton. That's what they call him in England. All right, let's get going with the show. It's a abbreviated week here for us. Kate and I are off. I don't know if Cons is off full-time, if his full-time job. Are you off, Cons?
No, I'm never off.
Still grinding, still
never
doing
off,
it.
Always grinding.
Yeah.
Nick's still grinding, still doing it too. Me and Kate are off, but it's been there's two and a half weeks that Barstool doesn't really work during the year. One is this week, and the other one is right around Christmas. The week between Christmas Eve and New Year's, we don't work that time, and I look forward to it all year long. Now it's raining. Every day it's been raining. I sent you guys pictures of my pool. It looks like an infinity pool. There's no way any more water could possibly get in there. It's awful.
Yeah, that sucks. We had shitty weather up here too, which again, as somebody with a new baby, it delights me. I'm like, oh, you're all stuck inside as well. And I did see Cons briefly. I was at a 4th of July beach house, and Cons and his fiance came, and I was on my way upstairs to feed the baby. And I was like, hey, Cons, how's it going? And then that was all I saw of you.
That was
really.
The extent of
I could
me and
hear
Kate hanging out.
I could hear everyone downstairs playing drinking games, having fun, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, but yeah. So I saw him for like 2 seconds. So that's it. Yeah.
And you saying that line about feeding the baby, it just made me realize I have spent this morning, I was going through old Reddit and I saw this AMA, and it was a woman who had 2 vaginas.
I knew this was going to go somewhere weird.
What?
2 vaginas. She had 2 vaginas, 2 uteruses, and she was, this woman is a genius. I guess it's a genetic defect where she was born with 2 full vaginas, 2 full ass vaginas. She has 2 full vaginas, one on the left, one on the right, which is how it goes. Well, I guess you could have upside down and like closer to the butthole, one in the gooch.
Right.
But she was saying that she had a baby recently, and the baby only comes out of one vagina. So the other vagina is still completely intact. And I got to think, why didn't God do that? Because then you wouldn't have all kinds of ladies with piss problems, like having to close your legs whenever you got to laugh so you don't pee on yourself. What were we thinking? We should have had 2 vaginas from the jump.
Yeah, the human body. You think we've had enough time to get this down better to be a smoother process. No, I wish I had a second vagina. So
let me tell you how genius this lady is. She has an OnlyFans.
Well, I mean,
brilliant.
Why wouldn't you at this point?
Brilliant.
She put it in her profile that she's in the top 0.05 of all earners on OnlyFans.
I'll be honest. I would pay. I want to know what does that look like?
I almost did, because I don't have any OnlyFans. I've never subscribed. I've never paid a dime for a porn in my life, and I never will. But this, I might have to change my philosophy on this. You got 2 vaginas. I need to see.
I might invest in a prosthetic. I might get a second and tell everyone I have a second vagina and go on OnlyFans.
Which one is the real one? Which one is the real one? Who knows?
Sign up to find out.
Yeah, 2 vaginas. Unbelievable.
Something to think about. Right.
Never would have thought it. Never would have thought it at all. But we're not done talking about privates because we have, that would have been good one if there's actually a private story too.
That would have been very good.
That would have been
two
excellent.
privates.
Two privates indeed. But this one, it's a little bit of science. It comes to us from futurism. Kate, explain what they're trying to say here about castration.
Sure thing. According to new research, there may be a surprisingly effective way for men to increase their lifespans, but it requires a pretty severe alteration to the physical body that might not appeal to everybody. I would say men specifically. Researchers from the University of Otago in New Zealand. Good day, mate. Anyways, they were able to show that castration of male sheep delays the aging of DNA, and the same principles could apply to humans as well. Both farmers and scientists have known for some time that castrated male sheep live on average much longer than their intact counterparts. However, this is the first time anyone has looked at the DNA to see if it also ages slower. The study is a testament to the development of tools that illuminate the rate at which DNA ages. It's cutting edge research. And so they're really looking at
Legit
like, how do
cutting
we
edge, am I right?
like very sharp cutting edge. Interestingly, those sites most affected by castration also bind to receptors of hormones in males at much greater rate, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand what that means, but basically chop your dick off. I guess your DNA starts to shift a little bit in a way that extends your life. Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. Maybe you don't take as risky, but science has also said that like there's a myth that your balls create some sort of, I guess, attitude that you have. Like, for example, it's really common in dog handling circles for some dog handlers think that you could tell the difference when a male dog is neutered versus not neutered in the way that they act. You see it in sports competitions all the time. I think it was Ed Reed who famously said that he doesn't have sex with his wife unless it's like on a Monday or Tuesday after a game because he wants all that testosterone built up. I don't think any of that's true. And honestly, does a vasectomy count? Like what does it? Why not?
No, because you're not castrating yourself when you get a vasectomy. You're simply tying.
There's two schools of thought on that.
No, the answer lies in this sentence, the one you just read. Interestingly, those sites most affected by castration also bind to receptors of male hormones in humans at a much greater rate than we would expect by chance. So all that's saying is by taking away the castration, the testicles, we're eliminating a lot of those hormones. So there's a lot of hormones that cause you to age. I guess based on what this.
Now, if we're going to extrapolate this, everything that happened in the study that happened to males, they said that there's a sheep in New Zealand named Shrek who managed to grow almost 60 pounds of fleece and live to the age of 16, well above the average maximum of 10 years. Now, that would go to show, or maybe it would illustrate, that if I got castrated, I would have the hairiest testicles in the world. Right?
Well, no.
I mean,
I think it would just mean you'd have hair all over, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of science going on here that we don't necessarily understand, but we're going to pretend like we do.
I'm looking at this study from I don't know if this website's legit, but they looked at cases of eunuchs. Remember, there's like certain cultures where they chop off the guys' dicks so that they can be the attendants to the women royalty and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we call that the Old Testament. Yeah.
Yeah. They lived an estimated males castrated before puberty lived about 13 years longer than intact men. So, and they said maybe back then it was because of all the STDs and stuff like killed people back then. Well, they didn't have to deal with infections like that.
Yeah, you get gonorrhea in 60 AD, you're dead-zo.
Yeah, I guess the only question is, what are you getting out of an extra 10 to 20 years out of your life? Because presumably
you don't have a dong.
Right. Well, you still have a dong, you just don't have the testicles.
I think you could use that as like comedy show. Like if you had somebody that just had a penis and no testicles, you could use it like a puppet.
I guess.
Yeah.
But what's the difference? What are you accomplishing between ages 80 and 90 or 90 and 100 that would really make it worth your while to do this experiment?
Well, you know what you could do is wait till you get past sexy time age and then chop it off. Because you're like, I don't feel like having sex anymore anyway. And then maybe get a few extra years and go on a nice RV trip.
Or maybe you could do this like a deferred situation where you say, okay, cool, I'll do this, but not until I'm 75. So give me all the money you're going to give me to go through this experiment, but you don't get to take anything from me until we're 75. And then you just go off the grid and you just take all the money.
How much
to agree to this?
To agree to this right now, tomorrow.
As much money as I would need to live extremely comfortably for the rest of my life up until 75. Yeah, because then it's 75 comes around.
You can't ever bone again
about that. No.
Can you get a boner without your testicles?
No.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure at all, but I don't think so. I don't know if anyone knows that answer, but if you can't, let's say you can't get a boner, just for our hypothetical. If you can't get a boner, I think I would have to wait till I was about 55.
Okay.
No, all right. That's too young. That's too young.
Too young?
I'm saying, but I want to have,
if I'm getting the money, I also want to enjoy it for a longer period of time.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna back off my prime or my sex years some, so I have more ability to walk around and go do stuff. Because if you're 75, you're not walking up the Swiss Alps. But if I am 55 years old, I can still go there and enjoy myself.
I'm saying you get the money today and you just promise them when you hit 75, you'd go through this procedure.
Oh, I do that because that's the problem for future chaps. That's a future chaps issue.
Exactly.
If they're like, here's $10 million, you have to cut your balls off whenever you're 75. Oh, that's a fucking no-brainer.
Yeah.
Big time no-brainer.
Somebody listening, if you're listening, you're super rich, I'll sign the contract right now.
Yeah. If there's a penis doctor listening, whatever you're called. Oh, wait, ladies have gynecologists. What's a penis doctor? Oh, if you're a urologist, come on the show. I have a lot of questions.
I don't like how urologists are called urologists either, because it just sounds like it's about urine. Very misleading.
Well, you know me in transitions. You know whose balls should be snipperooned?
The guy in round number 2.
The guy in round number 2.
What does it have to do with the Afghanistan war potentially being over?
Nothing. I just wanted to include that story because it involves castration and science and sheep. 3 of my three favorite things.
Sure enough. Yeah. Sure enough.
So this one, the round number 2. This one,
when a military story is in the Daily Beast or the New York Post or like one of the, it's fucking salacious as shit. It's like, okay, it made it here. This is.
Can I make a request? Either myself or Kate. Sorry, I'm not going to request that you do this, chaps. Can we read the entirety of the story? Because I think it bears. Sometimes with longer stories, we kind of jump around.
Yeah, I think
there's so much detail here.
We can skip through. We'll skip around of people that are like walking us through this one because it is a little bit long, but it is completely worth it. This story, honestly, this could be a story that you did like a serial type podcast on, because you just want to know the details. Without further ado, this comes to the Daily Beast, and we're also going to use Task and Purposes version of this that was done by our wonderful woman named Haley. It says, an Army lieutenant colonel is under investigation after reportedly spinning an insane web of lies over several years in order to carry out affairs with several women. And that right there, you don't expect that from lieutenant colonels. Like you don't expect that from lieutenant colonels at all, because having an affair is against the UCMJ. Does it happen all the time? Yes. But when you're a lieutenant colonel, you've been in for a long time, you know the game. And when you're at that rank, you're probably going to bear a little bit more responsibility than, let's say, a PFC or a Lance Corporal ends up cheating on his wife or cheating on her husband. That's just the way the nature of the old beast. So this guy's name is Lieutenant Colonel Richard Kane Manser, civil affairs officer based at Joint Base Langley in Virginia. He had a serious long-term relationship with at least 6 other women over the last 5 years, while still married to his wife of 18 years, according to the Daily Beast report. The investigation was first reported by the Army Times. Throughout the relationship, Manser reported that he lied about being on deployments, going so far as to provide at least one woman with deployment papers the Daily Beast said appeared fake, and receiving the Silver Star. The Daily Beast reported that Manser deployed from Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012, but has not been overseas since 2014 and never received the Silver Star. He also rented a townhouse for one woman whose name is Chelsea Kernut.
And she's the fucking hero of this story.
Chelsea Kernut,
you're a fucking hero.
Because when I first read it, I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of fucked up that they shared her name." But she, like after getting through this, she was like, "Fuck yeah, use my name. Fuck this dude."
Yep.
So while he was living on base and she was pregnant with their child, went on trips with another woman he was engaged to, and even met the woman's parents. He reportedly told the woman he was divorced from his wife at the time, whom he was very much still married to and had 3 children with, and said one of those 3 children, his daughter, had died.
You're a scumbag. You fake killed. So you know how growing up and in school, sometimes you'd come up with stories to maybe get out of something. One thing I never did was kill anybody that was alive. If somebody was already dead, maybe you could say, oh, so-and-so died. But I always had something inside of me that said, all right, you can never make the excuse that your grandmother died, because that's just not good juju. You kill a kid, you kill one of your kids that's still alive, you're a scumbag. Why are you raising your hand?
Hand up, Miss Whitaker's class, kindergarten. I got held back for being a little immature. I said that my dad died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Very much.
Wow.
And my dad was actually a flight engineer. And my mom had to come to the school because I was hamming it up. I was crying and shit, like carrying on. And my mom was like, no, his dad's on a 6-month trip to Iceland. Like,
wow. Well, I'll give you a pass.
I got big trouble when I got home.
You were in 3rd grade. I'll give that a pass.
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Yeah. Kindergarten, 5 years old. I'll give you a pass. It's still a little weird that you would kill your dad at 5. But that said, I was talking more like when you're in high school or college and you got to get out of something. Nevertheless, continue.
All right. So in 2019, the crime of adultery. I skipped a paragraph. He says he got this plague book, one woman said, who was engaged to Mansour in 2017. He tells these lies about his dead children, about post-traumatic stress disorder, his deployments, and all the horrible things he had to do. He creates all these imaginary traumas to cloak his lies in. In 2019, the crime of adultery under the UCMJ was rebranded as extramarital sexual conduct. The maximum punishment is a dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of pay, blah, 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 the normal shit. Well, Sharon Mulligan, a spokesman for this Center of Initial Military Training at Joint Base Langley, says that she is aware and is investigating the allegations against Lieutenant Colonel Mansour, and the Army did not respond for comment. You would think the Army would. Like, unless they are going deep down and like, oh, we got to, because if you don't go after this one and you don't kick this dude out and give him the maximum punishment, you got to take the law off the books. Just take it off the books.
So I will give my beloved Army the benefit of the doubt here and say that this thing is so convoluted that they're still investigating it. Because if he's lying about deployments, he's lying about awards, there must have been a lot that he fabricated. So it might be even worse than what we're already reading right now.
Oh, yeah. So his alternate reality came to light after Kernut, who he was dating and expecting a child with, went looking for him in June after not hearing from him for days.
And this is, hold on, I got to stop this. The way, I think it's task and purpose, the way somebody told this story from her perspective, and it's fucking incredible. The day before she was due to have this baby, the day before, and I'm just thinking back to when I was super pregnant, like, walking to the next room felt impossible. You don't know what could happen at any minute. You have so much anxiety. You're in so much often physical discomfort and pain. And this woman still, the day before she was due, was like, no, fuck this guy. I'm going to find his ass wherever he is. So sorry, go ahead. But
she was looking for him after not hearing from him for several days, which is odd. If you are expecting a baby with somebody who is your fiance, you would think that you would be hearing from him the days before you give birth. I mean, I can't imagine my wife being super pregnant and me not contacting. Even if I was in Afghanistan, if I was somewhere where I didn't have, you're getting on a sat phone, you're doing something to try to contact. So go ahead, Kate.
She goes into contractions and she's calling him. She's like, hello, where are you? And she thought everything was fine up until this point. She's like, I'm having contractions. He doesn't answer. Dozens of text messages, giving him calls, nothing. She drove, I think it was something like over 7 hours or something like that, to get to where his parents lived or something like that. Anyway, it's just absolutely crazy. Then she calls his unit and is like, hello, has anyone seen your lieutenant colonel? I'm so-and-so. And they were like, what? Huh? Who are you? He's married with kids. Like my brain would have fucking exploded.
Like you would think that you were in like a movie plot, right? Like if that's the kind of, because you would never ever expect this type of thing to happen to you. But she contacted the support staff and the sergeant major thought that it was his ex-wife. The sergeant major informed Kernette that Mansour was on leave. So she called the woman she believed to be Mansour's former wife. I was like, listen, I know you probably don't like me because I'm the new person in his life, but I'm calling you out of desperation because I haven't been able to find Kane, Kernette told the Daily Beast. As she goes on, Chelsea, we're still married. So that's like the current wife telling her. Mansour and his wife, who is unnamed in the Beast report, have been married for almost 18 years. She moved back to Illinois last year and gave him some space while they were having some marital issues. And she planned on moving back to Virginia in January when she got a phone call from another woman telling her she was engaged to her husband.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. I want to just backtrack just for a second. When the woman was having contractions, she did get in touch with him and he said, "Don't bother me at work." What a ridiculous thing to say.
Well, she had been told that. And I do know people that are in the military that have told their spouses or significant other, listen, you can't call me at work unless it's something, a dire emergency.
I would say having a child is a pretty big emergency.
I think that would qualify.
This bears being interrupted.
But there is people out there, if you work in like a secret location, you can't call, don't call me unless it's an actual emergency. So that type of thing does happen in military jobs where you say, don't call me if I'm at work unless it's huge, especially if you're a junior troop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is where credit to women. So she finds him. He's at his house with another woman, Jessica. So Kernette, Mansour's wife, and this woman, Jessica, they put their heads together. It's like that Brandy music video where at the end, her and Monica close the door on that guy. Yeah, they're like, you know what? They shut the door on him and they're in cahoots. These three women start to untangle all of his lies and find at least 4 other women over the last 5 years, blah, blah, blah. As I bet they were sitting there around like a kitchen table and just, oh my God, unspinning it all is absolutely, I had to be such a relief.
So Kate says at least 4 or 5 women over the last 5 years. And then the very next line is, quote, he had a habit of dating Army subordinates and widows of men who died in combat. Women who'd be too embarrassed to say anything about it or whose careers would be ruined if they did.
Motherfucker.
Absolute
motherfucker.
Scumbag.
That's a straight up predator. That is, you have a type of person and you're actively searching them out because you know they're vulnerable.
It's
scumbag.
It's like the Army version of Will Ferrell's character in Wedding Crashers. Like, oh, I'm doing funerals now. Like that's exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He went to go get some funerals. So Kernette posted an old video on Instagram on June 23rd, showing her and Mansour cutting into a cake to reveal the gender of their baby. Kernette said in a post that when the truth of Mansour came to light, her friends confronted me and told me they knew something was really off, but they didn't want to make accusations. Watching my gender reveal now versus then, all I see is a tainted memory. It disgusts me seeing him act the way that he did, knowing that it was all just a facade. In my previous marriage, I got cheated on. And afterwards, it turned out it had been going on way before I knew it. And afterwards, when the divorce is final, that's when people finally came forward. Friends, family, and we're like, well, I saw this thing one time when you guys were still together. Well, I kind of knew this. And I'm like, what? Like, because because if you are, and I've been cheated on too, that's the reason why I got my first divorce. But whenever, like, it happens all the time. And if you, like, say we know somebody mutually, but you're not your best friend or anything, but friendly, you don't ever want to be the person who causes a marriage to fail. Yeah. Even though it was the person who cheated who ultimately caused the marriage to fail, you still don't want to be that person, because on the off chance that you are wrong and you misinterpreted what you saw, unless you full out saw some making out, some fucking penis and some vagina or some butthole stuff, like, unless you saw that firsthand, most people don't want any of that, because that's when people become super explosive too. Like, if you get pushed into a corner, you could see people coming out like, well, now my life is completely fucked. There's no doubt this lieutenant colonel knows his life is fucked.
No. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would just think, though, too, it's one thing to have an affair with one other individual. That in and of itself is involved. But to do this with multiple people,
6 people at a time.
That is so much work.
Mhm.
My goodness.
How many phones does he have to have?
Right. And just keeping everybody straight and not slipping up. I just think like when I was getting ready to propose to Alex and I had to tell a few fibs for the few weeks leading up to throw her off the scent. And that was exhausting. I cannot imagine carrying on because if you're going to have any sort of meaningful relationship, even the crummiest of meaningful relationships with another person, it requires effort. To put in effort, I mean, just with one person's a lot. To put it in with 6 people, you are a grade A crazy sociopath.
Dude,
absolutely.
And my wife and I always joke about it. If this ever happened with us, we would know right away because both of us know exactly when the other person is not being completely honest or like you like, oh yeah, I like that person. No, the fuck you don't. I could tell them, look on your face, you don't like that person. Nobody else in the room does, but your significant other that you've been with a long time does. This woman who's been with them for 18 years, this dude has to be like a legit sociopath in order to get around this type of thing for 18 years.
Yes.
And well, it's crazy. Sociopaths and manipulators, people always look and they're like, well, how did she not know? How did blah, blah, blah. And like, I keep talking about me in my case, but like they are so good at what they do. They could tell you the sky is purple and you believe it. And
because they believe it.
For years, like for me, it was like going on for years. I had no idea. Like and afterwards, when everything comes out, it fucks up your head so bad because you're like, you can't trust your own judgment. You're like, oh my God.
And that you're right, Kate. And that's what happened. That's what happened here. Like this guy was gaslighting all these women when they would try to figure stuff out. He would be like, no, I'm training. Like, how dare you question this? There are some text message chains that happened in this report too, where he's like, hey, I'll be coming home in like 3 weeks. I'm getting an award. I would love it if you could come type of thing. Maybe we can work something out. And she wants to be there. And then he starts to push off. He's like, oh, it's a silver star. So it's not even just enough for him to be out there. He's got to give himself a high level valor award. He just an absolute egotistical maniac. Absolutely is.
And your heart really breaks that he has 3 children and another one on the way with this other woman. So you have 4 children out there that are eventually going to learn the truth about their father. And I mean, I have to imagine the one woman of 18 years, she can't carry on any sort of normal relationship going forward.
All 3 of the kids that are in that long marriage got to go up to him and be like, which one of us did you kill, Dad?
Yeah. Which one? Who's the one?
That's so horrible. I'm sorry for laughing, but that's horrible. You can't kill people. That's my rule.
Not your own damn kids. I mean, your dad's fine, but your kids?
Yeah. Oh.
That's
just terrible.
I just want to say this about Kernet. Her daughter was born on June 13th, healthy baby. She had, the last few weeks have been a living nightmare, but it's worth it for this little girl. I love her to pieces. Like, fuck him. We don't need him. I love this little girl. But she also thinks in some way that what happened to her was fated. She isn't like many of the other women, like the widows and the subordinates who'd be too afraid to come forward. She had a family, a career, and a life of her own, so she can expose his lies in public because she has nothing to lose. I think what I went through for a reason, because I was going to be the one to speak up. He's been getting away with it for over a decade. Your time is up. Chelsea. Give her the silver star.
This is officially a Chelsea podcast. I mean, to deal with that, like having the baby less than a month ago still, and this report all came out less than a month ago, to have the baby, dealing with all the things that you do. Kate, you just went through it. You could speak to it much better than I. Like my God. I mean, the baby's 3 weeks old and she's dealing with reporters, lawyers, got to be chain of command, all these other women that are coming forward to talk and she has to balance a baby by herself now as a single mom too.
And she had to face him in court. And he wouldn't make eye contact with her.
I think that this should be castration. I think that these women, like whenever you do this, they should be able to beat the fuck out of this guy. Just beat him.
For sure. One thing I will say too, and I recognize this is extremely superficial, okay? But I think to the TV movie Dirty John, which is basically the same premise here, where the dude just led a different life and lied to a bunch of women. Eric Bana, I get it, all right? Eric Bana's lying to you. You want to believe those lies? This guy looks like a goofball at best. So the fact that these women we're willing to believe all these crazy lies. Or not willing, I shouldn't say willing, but
Whoa,
I don't know how
yeah.
he
We
I don't know how he
victim
pulled this
shame.
off.
No.
I'm not victim shaming. I'm just saying
No.
he's not good looking enough to pull 6 women. Maybe he's just really, really funny. I don't know.
This guy is just a piece of shit all the
Yeah.
way,
Piece of
all
shit.
the way
Yeah.
around. We're going to definitely keep involved in this one and see where it goes because
because I don't think this is over.
There's no way this is over. No way. So we'll definitely keep you updated on that. We've also been keeping you updated on what's been going on in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. And if you need to talk to somebody, because Kate was saying before, it is difficult for people who have been to Afghanistan and lost buddies in Afghanistan. We went through this whenever we were basically done with Iraq. Like you look at what happened and once it's over, you're kind of like, this is it. Like now it's done. Yeah. What's the point? If you're struggling or just not, if it's not deployment related or just general life stuff, go to BetterHelp. The life is full of stressor. It doesn't matter who you are, what you have in your life. You may not be feeling down or depressed or at a total loss, but if your stress is high, your temper is shorter than usual, or if you're starting to feel strain of your relationship, you could use the chance to talk to somebody. We talk about different effects of medicine and things like that, but there is no replacement for counseling. Sometimes it's difficult to get in with somebody. That's why they make it easy here. You could do text, phone call, video chat, all kinds of stuff. It's customized online therapy that offers video, phone, live chat with a therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, so you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours, which I would say you probably can't do that anywhere else. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/0. That's BetterHelp.com/0. Let's move on to this story because I woke up, I think it was the night after 4th of July when this story really broke, that we just kind of fucking up and left Bagram in the middle of the night, right, Kate?
The headline of this from the Associated Press is just, so here's the headline. U.S. left Afghan airfield at night, didn't tell new commander. That's the headline. That is the fucking headline.
These Americans left and they didn't tell us. They turned off the lights.
So here we go. Brace yourselves. This is just
it's a doozy.
Nutty. It's a doozy. The U.S. left Afghanistan's Bagram airfield after hold on. Can we restart?
You've been at wait, no, Kate, have you been to Bagram?
No, Kandahar airfield.
Okay.
I've been to. Here we go. Basically, Bagram airfield, I think it's the largest base that we had out there. The U.S. left Afghanistan's Bagram airfield after nearly 20 years by shutting off the electricity and slipping away in the night without notifying the base's new Afghan commander, who discovered the Americans' departure more than 2 hours after they left. I think it was like Home Alone. I think the night before he was like,
honestly, that's not good situational awareness. Seriously. Like that's shitty. Like you got to know. I mean, everybody's leaving. Like you got to know. That's something. Where the fuck is Firewatch?
Where are you located that you don't notice everybody? I mean, maybe there weren't that many soldiers left there, but how do you just not notice people leaving in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I need to see how many people were actually left whenever.
Right. Yeah. I need to know this.
Afghanistan's army showed off the sprawling airbase on Monday, providing a rare first glimpse of what had been the epicenter of America's war to unseat the Taliban and hunt down al-Qaeda perpetrators in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. The U.S. announced Friday it had completely vacated the biggest airfield in the country in advance of the final withdrawal, which should be done by the end of August, apparently. We heard some rumor that the Americans had left Bagram, and finally, by 7 o'clock in the morning, we understood that it was confirmed that they already left Bagram, said General Mir Asadullah Kohistani, Bagram's new commander.
Very well pronounced.
Thank you. Military spokesman Colonel Sonny Leggett did not address, that's who we put on it. Oh, Colonel Sonny Leggett. He did not address, sorry, I don't know what a name. He did not address the specific complaints and referred to a statement the previous week talking about President Biden's mid-April announcement that we were leaving. Long story short there. Before the Afghan army could take control of the airfield about an hour's drive from the Afghan capital of Kabul, it was invaded by an army of looters who ransacked barrack after barrack and rummaged through the giant storage tents before being evicted. At first, we thought.
Now, are we calling barrack as singular? Like that's like a pant leg? Is that what we're doing?
Barrack after barrack. I guess if you're talking to multiple.
Wow, that's a good point. I've never heard barrack without an S attached to it.
Right, ransacked barracks after barracks.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Barrack is a verb, according to the old Google machine.
At first,
sorry,
the Afghan soldiers.
Sorry, Kate. We just got to get our nouns in our
the
English
fuck
language.
At first, the Afghan soldiers thought it was the Taliban, and they were like, "Oh shit, it's Taliban." And then they're like, "Oh, it's just looters." Kohistani insisted Afghan security forces could hold on to the heavily fortified base despite a string of Taliban wins on the battlefield, and despite just civilians wandering onto it and stealing chairs and shit. Anyways, the airfield also includes a prison with about 5,000 prisoners, many allegedly Taliban. So I'm sure that will go well.
I didn't know that part. They just left a bunch of Taliban in prison?
5,000 of them, my friend.
Yikes.
And this comes on the heels of the Taliban's latest surge as we pull out of the country. As of last week, most NATO soldiers had already quietly left, and the last U.S. soldiers are likely to remain until an agreement to protect the Kabul Hamid Karzai International Airport, which is expected to be done by Turkey when completed. So apparently Turkey is going to be holding down the fort there. Meanwhile, in northern Afghanistan, district after district has fallen to the Taliban. In just the last 2 days, hundreds of Afghan soldiers fled across to Tajikistan rather than fight the insurgents. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but basically, if you worked for us, with us, for the Afghan government, you're fucked. Like, we're gone. Yeah. You're fucked. So
they did do a good thing a couple of weeks ago, and they loaded up a shit ton of planes, and they brought a bunch of the interpreters to Guam, and they're going to eventually spread them out amongst the United States and give them options of where they could go. But still, you're right. Like, even if you worked on base, I mean, the Taliban finds out that you had any association positively with the Americans or the occupying forces. I'd imagine they don't take that very well.
No. Did I tell on the show? Did I tell when I was in Austin, my one Uber driver was an interpreter in Afghanistan? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But way overdue, and we should be doing way more there, but neither here nor there. In this case, on display Monday was a massive facility the size of a small city that had been exclusively used by the US and NATO. The sheer size is extraordinary, with roadways weaving through barracks and past hangar-like buildings. There are 2 runways and over 100 parking spots for fighter jets. One of the 2 runways, built in 2006, is 12,000 feet long. I looked this up. That one runway we built in 2006, $68 million it cost taxpayers. There's a passenger lounge, a 50-bed hospital, a giant hangar-sized tent filled with supplies like furniture. And in 2009, I also looked this up. I went on all sorts of a rabbit hole. In 2009, we started a $200 million expansion project there. Worth nothing now. Kohistani said the U.S. left behind 3.5 million items, all itemized by departing U.S. military, tens of thousands of bottles of water, energy drinks, MREs. He says, when you say 3.5 million items, it is every small item, like every phone, doorknob, every window in every barracks, every door in every barracks, and also big ticket items, civilian vehicles, but many without the keys.
Thousands of them.
There's photos here. Obviously, people can't see. Just parking lots filled. It looks like those lots.
It looks like a Walmart parking lot.
But there's no keys to them, so they're useless. And hundreds of armored vehicles. We're talking MRAPs.
Yeah, if you're a locksmith in Afghanistan right now, you're about to make a shit ton of money. We need all these vehicles rekeyed. That's going to be a big time influx of economy right there.
Old grassy lots just filled with MRAPs, which cost millions and millions of dollars each. The U.S. also left behind small weapons and ammunition for them. I wonder whose hands those will fall into. But the departing troops took heavy weapons with them. Ammo for weapons not being left behind was blown up before they left. Fuck it. Hey.
And not true. There's been several pictures of people walking away with armor-piercing 50 cal rounds that are still in belts, like all kinds of shit.
Yep. Afghan soldiers who wandered Monday throughout the base had once seen as many as 100,000 U.S. troops, were deeply critical of how we left, leaving in the night without telling Afghan soldiers tasked with patrolling the perimeter. So, hey, where's my replacement? Time for me to go to breakfast? Oh, no, they left the country. And
how much do you think those dudes on American Pickers would absolutely nut if they got the chance to go here?
American Pickers, Afghan edition. Let's go.
Man, I would love to do that because I love forging through. I think that's one thing in this neighborhood. I live in a nicer neighborhood now. I'm like easily the poorest person in my neighborhood. I love going through people's bulk trash. Like if they put stuff out, I'll fucking grab it. I saw a wine fridge the other day, picked it up, put it in my truck. It didn't work, so I put it back on my curb.
I told you in a few neighborhoods over in the woods.
Still should have tried.
Eagles coach Dick Vermeil had a cabin in the woods, and every bulk trash night, everybody's like, we got to go by Dick's house. He's putting any cool Eagles stuff out. Anyway, here, according to one Afghan soldier, he says, in one night, they lost all the goodwill of 20 years by leaving the way they did in the night without telling Afghan soldiers who were outside patrolling the area. Within 20 minutes of the U.S.'s silent departure Friday, the electricity was shut down and the base plunged into darkness. Apparently, this is what gave the looters the go-ahead that like, hey, the Americans left. They turned off the lights. Let's fucking go. Yeah, the sudden darkness.
It really is like Home Alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I included photos that obviously the listeners can't see, but you guys can see the absolute chaos of just jumbled military equipment, Connex boxes. What's that show where they went to storage lockers? Storage Wars. They should do an Afghan storage wars, but for Connex boxes is what they should do. Have Afghan the people at the bazaars bidding on these things. On Monday, 3 days after U.S. departure, Afghan soldiers were still collecting piles of garbage that the looters had left behind. Kohistani, meanwhile, said nearly 20 years of U.S. and NATO involvement in Afghanistan was appreciated, but now it was time for Afghans to step up. We have to solve our problem. We have to secure our country and once again build our country with our own hands, he said. Now, at the very bottom of this, the Guardian, they had a photographer go through the base and they posted the first images after the looters went through. And one of the images is of, most bases have bazaars right outside of them. And it's of one of the stalls and a shopkeeper in his bazaar. And here's a few things in it that, guys, I'm going to see if you can spot these things. Just start scanning your eyes. Jergens lotion.
Yep.
A jug of Gain laundry detergent. Electric.
Wait.
Far left.
Far left. All right, I got it. It looks like the pods. I got it. Go ahead.
Electric piano.
Yep.
Bicycle helmets.
Yes.
Spalding basketball.
Right there.
Enormous.
Multiple Spalding basketballs.
Yes.
Multiple. Enormous rolls of saran wrap from the chow hall. They're everywhere in his booth. Yep. Assorted personal fans, if there's a million of them.
You left off the Jane Fonda exercise ball.
There is a half exercise ball, you're right. And an LL Bean satchel complete with initials on it. So,
I've been looking for that for over a decade.
There you go. It says Captain Cons on it. It's really cute. It's very sweet.
And of course, all kinds of really cheap electronics like speakers and shit that everybody had in their little Quonset hut where they felt like they were back home listening to, I don't know, One Direction or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure the Pizza Hut, Subway, and Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf there on Bagram are doing just fine. I'm sure they're totally operational still and doing fine. We're making light of it. I was telling Chaps before the show started, it is hard not to get really, really down seeing this and not really, really mad at the people in charge of this thing, this monster, this mess. And it is so sloppy. If you look at the photos from this, and I encourage all of you to go Google what it's like, what we left behind, is just an enormous mess. The environmental implications of this, the disrespect that it shows towards the Afghan people, and to our partners and our allies, the Afghan soldiers who worked with it. Like, it just, to me, is such a huge slap in the face to Afghanistan and to everybody who served there that, like, I was angry. I felt rage.
It's very contradictory to so many of the principles that we teach in the military, especially to our leaders. The discipline to maintain control and working order of all your items, the accountability to know that if you are signed for an item, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt where that item is at all times. And for us to this was our plan. You
tell me the field day. First sergeant tells me this week the field day. I'm showing him this picture. Be like, we don't do that anymore.
Right, exactly.
We don't have to clean up. And honestly, this is really the result of 20 years of failed policy and kicking the can down the road. This was inevitable at one point. At one spot, it became inevitable. And we just kept on, treasure and blood over and over and over again. And now we're left with this mess. And obviously, none of us liked the way that this happened, but at some point, this was almost necessary. You're not going to have a clean break ever from Afghanistan. No. We just weren't. We got to that point. They had to do this at some point. I wish it would have been 10 years ago. And because The Onion wrote an article 10 years ago, almost to the day, that said, U.S. leaves Afghanistan in the middle of the night without telling anybody. 10 years later, it legit came true. And that's what happened. And now you have their president going on. And I don't blame Afghanistan's president for saying, look, they came in here, they didn't accomplish anything. We got to do this ourselves. That's the exact attitude that I would want to have. I would want my leader to have that attitude that we have to do this ourselves. Because looking at it now, it's a quagmire, like a legit quagmire. And we're back to where we started and possibly worse, because what now? Like at least before you had the threat of American forces. Now they don't give a fuck.
Here's the crazy thing. I was looking up the history of Bagram Airfield in particular, and this basically smaller carbon copies of this is every single other base we've had in Afghanistan. Like this same thing is everywhere, but just smaller across the whole country. It's just a mess. But in the 1950s, when the Cold War was heating up and everything, this airfield was built, and Russia is doing all sorts of stuff, building up stuff in Cuba. And the US was like, here, building up stuff in Afghanistan, kind of in this proxy war, this quiet proxy war. And Bagram was the result of that. I think it was a different name then. Then the Russians came in and took it over, and they really built up Bagram. Then, they got their asses kicked. They got kicked out. Well, in came the Taliban and the Northern Alliance. They actually split Bagram Airfield. Like they had a territory line. And, these were two opposing forces that was the result of the power vacuum when the Russians left. And they took all the Russian weapons, they took the vehicles, they took whatever, and then they used it to terrorize the country. Well, guess what? The same thing, like textbook, it's like the same things happening all over again, but this time it was just us leaving. And whose hands is it going to wind up in? The fucking Taliban's again. Who's going to take over the base and the fortifications? The fucking Taliban. Like, we basically gave them 20 years to hone their skills again, just like they did against the Russians. And then we left them with a ton of weapons and stuff to use against the people. I'm going on a tangent, but it fucking pisses me off. It's crazy.
No, you're exactly right. Now we look at it, and even in these reports where President Biden has said we're going to be completely out of there by the end of August. Well, and you're like, you almost have this feeling of relief as like a former troop or active duty. I'm sure they feel the same way too, where you're like, finally, we're done with this. Not so fast, my friends, because just yesterday it was announced that Fort Carson is sending another deployment of like 3,800 soldiers back to Iraq again.
What?
What in the fuck are we doing?
I didn't see that. That's
they're going back again because they've been all kinds of attacks that are happening on the Iraq and Syria border. It's just like, dude, it's just what are we doing, man?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
I understand, like you said, chaps, this was going to have to happen at some point sooner or later. I just have to imagine there must have been a better plan than just leaving everything. Maybe we were supposed to but give the Afghan army a lot of our equipment to use. But otherwise, I don't even want to think about how much money we spent there over the last 20 years in terms of building up Bagram and all the equipment that's been sent there and all the newer MRAPs when those got sent and all the different Humvees and weapons and ammunition. I have to imagine there was a better plan than just, we'll just leave it.
You know what this is? This is that George Strait song, Give It Away. The relationship became too much of a mess. And he's saying, you know what? That big 4-poster king size bed where so much love was made, just give it away.
Okay.
Just
that makes
give
sense.
It away. Mm-hmm. There ain't nothing in this house worth fighting over. Oh, we're both tired of fighting anyway. Just give it away.
For a second, I thought you actually knew the words to this, but I can see you're clearly reading the lyrics.
You guys, you want to know? Okay, I just looked it up of how much the total war on terror cost.
Yikes!
Are
Wait,
you
let
ready?
me guess. Let me guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
You guess first, Cons.
$15 trillion.
Okay, Kate.
3.2 trillion.
Okay, so first I'll preface this by saying the entire worth of the world is supposed to be $360 trillion. That's what all of the wealth combined in the world equals up to. The amount of money that the U.S., and this was only until 2019, the amount of money that the U.S. has spent on the war on terror is $6.4 trillion. $6.4 trillion. That is nearly 10% of the entire United States government has, like that of what America is worth. Essentially, the America is worth $105 trillion, everybody's wealth combined. This was 6.4 trillion, nearly 10%.
And nobody's angry enough about it because nobody even kind of knows it's been going on so long that it's like, and they're slipping out quietly in the night from Afghanistan. And everybody who created this quagmire, who should be held responsible, is slipping out quietly of the American mindset. Like nobody, they're not going to be held accountable for this fucking mess, and it's crazy.
Shout out Donald Rumsfeld.
Shout out, yeah.
Oh yes, who died shortly after we were done recording last week.
Yeah.
Here's something I said about Don Rumsfeld. Obviously, people have their opinions about him. But you have to admit, for as long as he was in Washington and for as many things as he touched and for as many people as he knew, guy must have had a ton of stories. Just a ton.
Oh yeah, a ton of stories that, I mean, some of the Amnesty International things that they put out after him about all the deaths that occurred needlessly and what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's a legacy that is for sure tainted. I don't know. I think that is the most vitriolic response to an American, quote, statesman that I've ever seen online, where I just saw person after person from country after country talking about Donald Rumsfeld and like what happened. And there is no doubt like that he was one of the main advisors for President Bush that led to that invasion. And between him and Cheney, the Iraq war is going to be their legacy. And George Bush, for a large part, has been forgotten about in that because he draws kittens and dogs and things like that. But I think that eventually those chickens will come home to roost too, because the American people are going to view this much like we viewed Vietnam for a long period of time.
It's
I
crazy.
mean, here's an example. My sister, who presumably reads the news whenever, each day, whatever. She had no idea Rumsfeld died. I just think it goes to your point that I don't think a lot of people cared because so many people disliked him that they didn't even care that he died.
Yep. And if you're feeling down and out about what's going on, make sure you go get some 3Chi. It's an industry leader in Delta 8 products. If you need to smile, I would recommend 3Chi and watching.
I need a lot of it.
I think you should leave with Tim Robinson. It's back out on Netflix. I'm looking forward to having one of the brownies from 3Chi tonight and giggling my ass off. I've only watched like the first 10 minutes of one of them. Funny again. And it'll be even funnier when I'm using 3Chi. It's available online at 3chi.com. That's the number 3chi.com, and retailers around the country. Must be 21 to purchase. Remember, it's not CBD. It's psychoactive. It'll make you pop on a piss test. Make sure that if you're an active duty military, you don't do it. Again, go to 3chi.com. That's the number 3chi.com. You can get your vapes, gummies, tinctures, oil, all kinds of stuff. All of it's Delta 8. Use the promo code ZBT 2021 at checkout. Let's move into a little bit of save rounds and alibis. Nick, we'll start with you this week. What do you got, pal?
Sure. Yeah, I actually looked up into our conversation earlier today about the whole one testicle thing. So a preface is that one testicle is as good as one. So right out the gate, if you got one, you're good to go.
Sweet.
No issues. But in the event that trauma or illness causes the loss of one or both testicles, there is a chance for erectile function to be affected. However, there are measures to get it back, apparently.
Okay.
So there's vacuum erection devices and injection therapy that have been seen to be proven helpful.
I see like a Nike pump like on a shoe too, like.
Those are the Reeboks. The Reebok.
Oh,
pumps.
pardon me, Reebok.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Those were so cool.
Right.
No free ads.
But there you go. There's mine. Little
Look how fast Mike can go now. Sorry.
Deflate. That would.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot easier to clean up if it's just air going in there after. If you just got air.
Not for the lady.
Yeah,
Like
you wouldn't.
normal
Well, yeah,
noise.
it'd be a heavy queef action going on.
A little bit of a quiff.
All right, Cons. What about you?
Thank
pal?
you, Nick.
I don't know if any of you watched yesterday the match with Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson and Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau.
Yep, I watched it.
Did you see when President Obama was on and getting interviewed?
No.
Yeah, I did. It was boring.
Well, besides being boring, it sounded like he was in a tin can. We can't get better audio for the former president. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
He sounded like such
it's
trash.
bullshit.
I thought it was a dating show. You can't call something the match and
Fair.
then it be fucking golf. Get out of
Fair.
here.
And then also, speaking of President Bush, did you see his golf score that he posted?
Oh yeah, 74, right?
Do you
Dude.
believe it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So
He's an athlete. Always has been.
yeah, he's always been a golfer. Yeah. He posted a 74. Unbelievable. And one of the other cool things, when you put your name at the top of the scorecard, he just put 40.
I saw this too.
He just put 43.
What
It's
a flex, man.
Flex and a half.
That's how Obama used to have that beautiful big BO that he would sign as his name. Now it just says 44.
Oh, that's so cool. So cool.
Would you rather do that? Or see, that's why the Pope should have done that. Like the Pope should have always been Pope 1, Pope 2, Pope 3, because then you could do the same thing.
And the Pope would probably do it in Roman numerals.
Yeah, which would be even better, like Super Bowls.
It'd be sick if the Pope had they wear fun hats. If he had a hat that looked a little bit, if he had a little hat that looked a little bit like a chimney, and his vape had this like super white smoke, and whenever he blew out a white.
What about the Pope gets the chance where you don't choose your name because they get to choose their name, which is, whatever.
Yeah,
like, somebody that inspired you, like, whatever. What about if you got to come out like a spring fashion model and you got to show what your papal design is, where you had almost like what's your name? Tyra Banks come out with you. Like, what inspired you here, Pope Francis? Well, actually, what I was thinking, I love Easter. That's why I'm wearing pastels.
Yeah, I love it. It's Vineyard Vines.
I bet the Pope is a big Easter guy.
Oh, huge.
It's the biggest holiday in the church.
It's his personal Christmas. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Huge. So that's all I got. Shout out to President Bush firing off a 74. That's just that's unbelievable.
All right, Kate, what about you?
Up until last week, we've been referring to the baby's butt as his little Donald Rumsfeld.
Oh.
Who's got a little Donald Rumsfeld got to get cleaned.
Not anymore.
And now it's not as cute.
Not Donald Bumsfeld? You didn't want to go with that?
Rump. His little rump. Donald Rumsfeld. His little rump.
Rump is a very underused term for buttocks.
Oh, it's so cute for a baby. A little rump. Little Rumpsfeld. Putting the war on diapers over here, Foul. A lot of casualties in that. For me, not much. Went to the beach for a few days, which was lovely. No, I have nothing, so I'm going to stop rambling. That's it for me.
I too have nothing. It's been a good week. My wife is off as well. So we are doing all kinds of home projects, which stinks because I always say, oh, I'm off. I'm going to do this and do that. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to go in and use screwdrivers and have my arms over my head for a long period of time. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of everything need to be fixed all the time. I'm sad about it, but I have to do it so I don't get yelled at. That's essentially like being married is essentially like being a corporal again, where you have some responsibility, but ultimately you get told by what to do by your higher up. That's essentially what it is.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. All right. That's it. It's on the retreat.